博士，咱们也该动身了吧？
魔神的力量正在涌入雕像。
你的体内藏着什么？
In the city lord's manor, Qin Mu felt his consciousness entering deep into another world through this devil god sculpture, and his consciousness traveled throughout this darkness before stopping suddenly. In front of him was a boundless space and time of darkness. Next, a humongous eye which was filled with scarlet red flames opened up in the darkness. In front of this eye, he was minute like a speck of dust. On Qin Mu's left, another humongous eye opened up, and after that, another eye opened up above this two eyes. The pupil of the third eye contracted and its gaze slowly moved before landing on his body. Weakling, you are summoning me, summoning the Jutian Devil King that rules the borderless territory of Jutian. Those three eyes gradually rose into the sky and went further and further away from Qin Mu's consciousness. However, they were still incomparably huge. Only now did Qin Mu notice there was still light beside his body, and he was like a lamp in the darkness. He looked at himself standing on the altar. The altar gave off a white glow and looked incomparably minute in the darkness, looking insignificant. The altar and he on the altar seemed to have come to another world. You are summoning my strength. A voice resonated out from the center of the three eyes, far and high up. The voice bombarded his consciousness and trembling back and forth, you are summoning me to your world, to massacre, to battle. Qin Mu said humbly, O the great Jutian Devil King, I pray for your descend. I shall sacrifice to you thousands of powerful lives, all the divine arts practitioners of Heaven Wave City. The three eyes suddenly burst into flames and an earth-shaking voice resonated out, as you wish. The sacrificial altar below Qin Mu's feet suddenly lighted up and the rays spread out in all directions. In an instant, the entire Heaven Wave City appeared in the darkness. Qin Mu looked around and his heart pounded. The entire Heaven Wave City was under his eyes, and all the people in Heaven Wave City were in his eyes. Every action and what they were wearing were all in his eyes, down to the very last detail. Following that, human figures started to disappear one after another from the city, and only the divine arts practitioners were left in the city. Those that had disappeared from the city were martial arts practitioners that had yet reached Six Directions realm and the ordinary people. These people didn't really disappear from Heaven Wave City, and instead, this Jutian Devil King was confirming his sacrifices. Qin Mu hurriedly pointed to the dragon Qilin beside the altar and said, this dragon Qilin isn't part of the sacrifices offered to the great Jutian Devil King. Shut up. An eerie and sinister voice came out from the back of those three eyes. Qin Mu saw another three more huge eyes spinning over behind these three eyes. You have no rights to command Jutian Devil King. I'll borrow your consciousness to descend onto this city. Qin Mu suddenly felt his body becoming stiff and was unable to move as an incomparably terrifying strength surged over from another world. Rumble. Violent tremors traveled from the surroundings of the sacrificial altars. Bloodlight soared into the sky, reaching several hundred yards, and as Qin Mu bathed in the bloodlight, he could feel a terrifying strength descending onto this world through his consciousness and surging towards the body of the Devil God sculpture. The runes on the surface of the Devil God sculpture were like weird eyes frantically absorbing the energy surging over from another world. The surface of the Devil God sculpture cracked continuously and the wood chips exploded out in all directions. This Devil God sculpture became larger and larger as dense light leaked out from the cracked lines. Flesh could be faintly seen growing in the insides of the Devil God sculpture, which was made from wood. In a blink of an eye, the Devil God sculpture on the altar had grown dozens of yards tall and was still continuing to grow. Qin Mu only felt his consciousness splitting apart. Not only had the energy of Jutian Devil King descended, Jutian Devil King's consciousness had also come bombarding over. That was a sinister, terrifying and irritable consciousness. This made Qin Mu's consciousness became insignificant in front of this terrifying consciousness, as if he could be crushed any moment. The nature of this Devil King was extremely violent, and he didn't care whether Qin Mu live or die. He just transferred his consciousness and strength from a space and time far away, pouring them into the Devil God sculpture. The Devil God sculpture was still expanding and becoming bigger, thus all the wood had already shattered and turned into a body of flesh. Catcher! Catcher! There were rolling thunders all around the altar as numerous bolts of lightning struck here and there, forcing Chen Wanyan and the rest to move back continuously. The dragon Qilin and Hu Linga were moving back continuously as well. The violent aura of that Devil God sculpture forced the dragon Qilin unable to have his footing. Beneath the feet of the Devil God sculpture, Qin Mu's body was trembling as a wound opened up at the heart of his brows. Fizzling sparks shot out from the heart of his brows and shone on the Devil God sculpture. Within the sparks was the consciousness of the Jutian Devil King. His consciousness was so strong that he nearly destroyed Qin Mu's consciousness. Qin Mu's forehead was non-stop bleeding and there were even smells of fresh blood burning. He couldn't move at all. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and forcefully executed Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique to protect his consciousness. His train of thoughts had already stopped, but luckily for him, the pressure on him lessened considerably when Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique started circulating. Suddenly, Qin Mu felt the circulation of Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique had added some stuff into his own body. The sounds of slaughter shook the heaven as the spirit weapons bombarded over like clouds, causing him unable to ponder over it. Sounds of tremors rang beside his ear as the devil god sculpture placed down that raised leg, collapsing countless of buildings in the city lord's manor from the vibrations. Before the spirit weapons could even reach close, they were all blown up into pieces. Devil withdraw command! Several Taoists rushed in from outside, and when the Daoist in lead saw this sight, his eyes couldn't help opening wide from anger. The dozen and more Taoists hurriedly patted the rune pouches on their waists, causing countless of yellow joss paper to fly out from the rune pouch. Written on these yellow joss papers were weird runes that were different from Ghost Transferring God Dispatching Runes command. The countless of yellow joss paper linked with each other and formed a huge yellow screen. The countless of runes on the yellow joss papers could actually link one another from head to tail, forming an incomparably huge and complicated character. The secret arts of Great Mountain Sect, Devil Withdraw Command. About a dozen of Taoists of Great Mountain Sect chanted in chorus and pushed their vital chi to activate this complicated character on the yellow screen. Devil Withdraw Command lighted up and shone towards Juqian Devil King. Just as Devil Withdraw Command shone onto the body of Juqian Devil King, the eyes of Juqian Devil King opened up one by one and a bolt of lightning shot out from his gaze, tearing Devil Withdraw Command into pieces. About a dozen of Taoists under Devil Withdraw Command was also shone by his gaze, and they turned into ashes. However, as Devil Withdraw Command shone onto Juqian Devil King's body, Qin Mu instantly felt the heart of his brows turning light suddenly and as if relieved of a heavy load. He regained control of his body and hurriedly retreated. There were still some puzzles in his heart. This devil god that he had summoned seemed to be slightly different. He didn't listen to him at all. He was extremely cruel and didn't care whether he lived or died at all. This devil god that he had summoned out was probably no ordinary devil god. Let us retreat. Qin Mu rapidly came to the others and shouted, "Big dragon, show your true form and bring us out of the city." The dragon Chelin gave a roar and heat waves instantly swept out, blowing Yu Qinghong and Yun Qiu away. Chen Wanyan and the wolf slave lost their footing and moved back a few steps, while Sai Yunxiang's body just swayed and didn't move back at all. The dragon Chelin's body expanded and grew larger, with true fire blazing around his body. He instantly turned into a huge creature that was over 400 feet long. His height was even taller than the city tower, and as his body moved, the air around him exploded continuously from being compressed. Qin Mu flew and came to Yu Qinghong and Yun Qiu's side in a flash to grab the both of them. With his fleeting footsteps, he came to the dragon Chelin's side and jumped up on the dragon Chelin's back. Chen Wanyan and Sai Yunxiang also jumped up, and Qin Mu shouted, "Run! Run as fast as possible!" Fire clouds grew under the feet of the dragon Chelin and rose into the sky. At this moment, they heard Juqian Devil King's voice coming from their back, vibrating the air. "Run! Where to? Finally, someone has summoned me. I had not imparted out the spells of Juqian in vain. I'll construct a sacrificial altar here and build a passage to summon my true body, to summon the people of my Juqian. Ha ha ha, you will all be the skeletons on my sacrificial altar." His huge hand came grabbing over, and the air in the surrounding was almost solidified, freezing the dragon Chelin, which was running in the air. The dragon Chelin pushed his magic power and the flame clouds raged, yet he was unable to move at all. As this Juqian Devil King was about to grab hold of them, a dragon roar suddenly sounded out. A middle-aged man rode a flood dragon and pounced over viciously. With its body coiled around the Juqian Devil King, the flood dragon spew out lightning and fire at the face of Juqian Devil King. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man stood on the head of the flood dragon, stabbing the head of Juqian Devil King with the sword lights flashing in his hand. Qin Mu and the rest were free from the constraints, and the dragon Chelin immediately rose into the sky, rushing out of the city. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief. The Dragon King of Dragon Rider Sect is here. At this moment, a miserable cry sounded out. The cult master level flood dragon was actually pulled apart forcefully by the Juqian Devil King, whose punch made both the flood dragon and the Dragon King of Dragon Rider Sect spat blood and fell back. Rah! The four faces of Juqian Devil King opened their mouths and shouted with all their might. The earth-shaking sound wave surged forth, causing countless of people to bleed from all their orifices. The dragon Chaline's body also swayed from the roars, and suddenly all 12 eyes of Juqian Devil King lighted up brightly. With bolts of lightning interweaving each other, they swept over from all directions, slicing through countless of experts in Heaven Wave City that were pouncing over. The dragon Chaline was also hit in his butt and snarled in pain, falling from the sky. Luckily for him, his skin was thick, thus he wasn't killed by Juqian Devil King's gaze. The dragon Chaline landed in the city and his body shrank as he stumbled. Qin Mu and the rest hurriedly came down from his back only to see Juqian Devil King sweeping all the experts in the city lord's manor while chuckling. "I was the one who had imparted ghost transferring god dispatching runes command. You weaklings wouldn't have thought of it, am I right? I will use your corpses to construct a huge sacrificial altar to let my true body to descend. The people of my Juqian shall descend into this world." Yu Qinghong was dazed and muttered, "Academician, what kind of devil have you summoned?" Qin Mu was also a little dumbstruck. "I don't know either, let us leave quickly, Long Jianan is coming over." They quickly brought the dragon Chaline to head out. The dragon Chaline had suffered an injury, thus his legs were inconvenient. Hu Linga jumped onto Qin Mu's back and immediately cast a spell to summon a tornado, sweeping this dragon Chaline into the whirlwind and brought him along. Meanwhile, behind them, Heaven Wave City, which was constructed on the mountain range beside the river, was collapsing. As the huge Devil King fought numerous strong practitioners in the city, he actually had the free time to use the flesh and bones of the people he killed to build his sacrificial altar. Bloody bones and skulls continuous flew through the air and landed under his feet, building a layer very quickly. His true body was still located in that so-called Juqian, and only his magic power and consciousness had descended, yet the strength of his abilities had already surpassed strong practitioners of the cult master level. In the city, the Dragon King of Dragon Rider sect was not the only expert of the cult master level. There were also other stronger practitioners of the life and death realm as well as the divine bridge realm. However, even when they attacked all together, they were helpless against Juqian Devil King and got injured one after another. As for the army stationed in the city, the thousands of divine arts practitioners were all injured in Juqian Devil King's roars, and countless of them were killed by the 12 gazes of Juqian Devil King. The city was in a piece of chaos and countless soldiers were escaping for their lives in undisciplined crowds, and some even jumped straight into the river. However, they were all smashed into pieces on the mountain cliff by the towering huge waves of surging river. The soldiers in the city were usually disciples from each and every sect and lacked the discipline they had in the military. When they met something terrifying like this, they just broke down instantly and had no morale at all. It was absolutely impossible for their armed forces to cooperate and trap Juqian Devil King using formations. When Qin Mu followed Chancellor Ba Shan to the area beyond the Great Wall for experience, the combined strength of 800 strong practitioners of the prairie could wear down Chancellor Ba Shan's divine arts, heavenly spirits escarpment, forcing him to retreat again and again. Chancellor Ba Shan was a strong practitioner of the cult master level and was even forced to retreat. With thousands of divine arts practitioners and martial arts practitioners in Heaven Wave City, if they cooperated with each other, they would probably be able to contend with Juqian Devil King for a short period of time. However, each and every sect was like a sheet of loose sand, unable to be gathered together. Escaping for their lives were more important. Qin Mu looked back and saw Long Jianan chasing desperately. However, it didn't look like he was chasing after them. Oh right, Long Jianan is also running for his life. Qin Mu came to a realization. Boom! Terrifying vibrations burst forth from the clash of the strong practitioners. Buildings crumbled and disintegrated in midair while Qin Mu and the rest were lifted into the air by the terrifying vibrations. Countless of people flailed their limbs and flew off in all directions. Boom! Boom! When they were still in mid-air, another few terrifying vibrations came traveling over and Qin Mu vomited blood continuously. He hurriedly grabbed Hu Linga down from his backpack and embraced her tightly so that Hu Linga wouldn't be vibrated to death. When the fourth vibration rushed over, Qin Mu grunted and executed Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. His body and soul immediately became incomparably durable, but he was still blown away. Thud! Qin Mu crashed into the ground and tumbled several times before coming to a stop. He crashed into a forest and the gale whooshed past the top of the forest, slicing countless crowns of the trees off. That was the aftermath of the divine arts from the strong practitioners of Heaven Wave City. Blood flowed out from the corner of Qin Mu's mouth and his eyes stared wide open as he felt a suffocation in his chest. After a moment, he suddenly gasped for huge breaths and he heard a pop sound coming from his chest. His chest should be damaged. He panted heavily and took Hu Linga out from his chest. Hu Linga was also injured quite badly and had fainted. Qin Mu hurriedly took out a jade bottle from his Taoqia's sack. Pinching her mouth open, he poured a few drops of dragon saliva into his mouth. After a moment, Hu Linga gradually woke up and was in a daze. She then said with a sobbing tone, "I have lost Big Dragon." The Dragon Qilin had inconvenience in walking, thus Hu Linga had summoned a tornado with her spells and let this Dragon Qilin sit on the tornado, allowing him to float in mid-air. The few vibrations that had traveled over earlier destroyed her spells and blew the Dragon Qilin far away as well. Qin Mu consoled her, "It's okay, Big Dragon was merely hurt on the butt and he will heal himself, although I'm afraid he might not be able to reach the wound to lick it. Furthermore, I have also lost Chen Huanyun and the rest. Big Dragon is very valuable." Hu Linga sobbed, "Chen Huanyun and the rest are worthless." Qin Mu got up and circulated his vital qi, expelling the extravasated blood from his chest. He then picked her up and said, "Let's go find them." Just as he said that, his body became stiff. Sounds of trees collapsing came from the depths of the forest and a huge snake gradually slithered out from the forest, pushing the trees down from both sides. That huge snake was the one that destroyed the ship that Qin Mu and Wei Yong took when they were heading to the capital city. The huge creature that Long Jianan raised. Keek, keek. Violent coughs came from the head of the snake. Qin Mu raised his head and saw a pretty man in disheveled clothes sitting on the flat head of the snake coughing and spitting blood. Thousands of holes were on his flowery gown and even the rogue and powder on his face were smeared, looking battered and exhausted. "You destroyed Heavenwave City, destroyed my Dragon Rider sect." Long Jianan stood up shakily from the head of the huge snake, seemingly crying yet not crying. Her gaze landed on Qin Mu's body and Qin Mu shivered with fear as he steadily moved back step by step. Long Jianan was an expert and had faced off with the bow and arrow cavalry as well as the sword guards outside the capital city. Even they didn't manage to hold him back and let him escape unscathed. "Who exactly are you?" The huge flowery crowned snake raised its head up and looked down at Qin Mu. Long Jianan screeched, "Did Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor send you?" Qin Mu didn't say a word and moved back to the side of a huge tree. Suddenly his body disappeared in a flash as he hid himself behind the tree. Long Jianan shrieked and stretched his hand forward to grab. His vital qi transformed into a huge hand and crushed the huge tree into pieces. However, there was no trace of Qin Mu behind the huge tree. Long Jianan turned frantic and raised his hands forwards. The ground trembled continuously as sharp rock spikes pierced out from the ground. In the radius of dozens of yards, there were these kinds of rock spikes everywhere, turning the area into a rock forest. "Run? You can't run." That huge snake slithered its body and crushed all the rock spikes as it moved forward. Meanwhile, Long Jianan, who was on the snake's head, seemed to be injured as his body squirmed on the head of the snake as if he was a human snake. After squirming for some time, his head suddenly split open and then his face. Another head popped out. He continued squirming like a snake and not long after, he shed a human skin and Long Jianan stood naked. He fetched a set of new clothes and slowly wore it while looking around and chuckling, "I know you haven't left far away and are still lying low around here, I can feel your gaze. You're admiring my body." About 300 yards away from him, Qin Mu was squatting in the crown of a huge tree and fixed his gaze on the body of Long Jianan who had gone through a transformation. Dragon Rider sect sure has peculiar techniques to actually be able to shed his own skin and change into a new body. However, didn't they say Long Jianan was the son of Dragon Rider sect's Dragon King? How come he's a woman with a plump chest? In the instant he hid his body behind the tree, he immediately raised his clothes up and teleported away, avoiding Long Jianan's sure-kill strike. However, his cultivation wasn't high, thus he couldn't teleport far away. He could only teleport up to 600 yards and couldn't leave this forest. What made him the most astonished was this technique that Long Jianan cultivated. Long Jianan had injuries on his body, yet after he had shed his skin, there was actually no injuries at all. Furthermore, the Long Jianan that had crawled out was naked like a baby. Only now did Qin Mu realize that his body was different from his own and looked like a woman with an alluring body. He trained his chest much firmer than mine. I won't be able to train to this step. Qin Mu exclaimed secretly, "Is he a male or a female? Or could it be, she's a female but the Dragon King wished for a boy, therefore, he had given her the name Jianan, which meant a delicate boy. The Dragon King had most probably raised her as a boy, resulting in her such a queer appearance." His gaze stayed on Long Jianan's body without blinking. If he blinked at this moment, the closing and opening of the eyes would reveal his position and it would be very easy for Long Jianan to get his location. Long Jianan had such overbearing and powerful divine arts, therefore, he was absolutely not his or her opponent. Furthermore, the teleportation clothing could only teleport him 3 to 4 times before his cultivation would be exhausted, making it difficult for him to escape Long Jianan's chase. He also couldn't just keep staring at Long Jianan. For experts like Long Jianan, her senses were extremely sharp and could most probably follow his gaze to find his location. Long Jianan was still slowly wearing her clothes with her back facing Qin Mu. Suddenly fine goosebumps appeared on the skin of her neck as she chuckled, "You're staring at my neck. Does my neck look nice?" Qin Mu's pupils contracted as the area of goosebumps on Long Jianan's neck gradually shrank. She had already confirmed Qin Mu's exact location. Qin Mu raised his clothes and an explosion sounded out beside his ear. His figure vanished in the divine art explosion. Long Jianan's shirt was half-buttoned and she quickly retracted her palm back. The huge snake carried her and slithered at its fastest speed, yet they didn't find any traces of Qin Mu. She suddenly raised her head and saw a person sprint frantically in the sky as he stepped on the air. "You can't run!" The huge snakes under her feet spewed out a demon gas and rose into the air, chasing after Qin Mu. In mid-air, the two of them saw the sight in Heavenwave City and was dumbstruck. They saw the city constructed on the mountain had already been completely demolished, and in its place, there was a sacrificial altar formed from blood and bones. Juqian Devil King stood on the sacrificial altar and was fighting 2 people. One of them was the Dragon King of Dragon Rider sect who was with his Flood Dragon, while the other people was a cult master level existence at the Divine Bridge realm. These 2 people were in great danger and could be killed by Juqian Devil King anytime. The devil language coming out from Juqian Devil King's mouth was much more profound than the devil language Qin Mu used to summon him. Above Heavenwave City, the sky was spiraling and warping. Suddenly, thunder rumbled and lightning struck as the sky got ripped open and faintly showed a space of darkness. In that dark space, there seemed to be something moving, and suddenly, a bogeyman with 2 heads and 2 eyes flew out from the vortex that was spinning crazily. The bogeyman stopped in the air and gave 2 shouts towards the vortex. Buzz! Numerous black spots spew out from the vortex and covered the entire sky in a piece of black as they rushed towards Heavenwave City. Those were the heavenly devils of Juqian. 10 of thousands of heavenly devils were pouring in from Juqian, and the heavenly devils were killing one another. Their corpses fell from the sky like rain and accumulated on the sacrificial altar, causing the sacrificial altar in Heavenwave City to grow even larger. Blood rain started to fall from the sky. There were also some heavenly devils that had higher positions holding scepters as they descended from the sky. They landed on the sacrificial altar in Heavenwave City and chanted an ancient and abstruse devil language as they surrounded the sacrificial altar. Countless magnificent runes instantly appeared in the sky above the sacrificial altar, which was incomparably bright. I might have created a disaster even greater than paralyzing the entire Imperial College, Qin Mu thought to himself as the corner of his eyes twitched. Long Jianyan also hesitated for a moment, and the vortex which was currently above Heavenwave City had already become a passage to another world. The heavenly devils that swarmed out from the vortex were getting stronger and stronger, and the heavenly devil horde flooded in from the sky. "Leave, my people of our Juqian, leave the crumbling dark world of ours and head for the new world." Juqian Devil King stood on the sacrificial altar and opened his 8 arms to welcome the heavenly devils that were descending down while shouting with a world-shaking voice, "Come, my people. This new world isn't desolate like Juqian. There are beautiful women, endless food, and the people guarding this world are all weaklings. Let us trample on them." Long Jianan saw her own father was already under the feet of this Devil King. Even the flood dragon that her father had raised laid on the ground, unable to move. Meanwhile, the other existence of the cult master level was already beheaded. His head was plucked off by Juqian Devil King, who was raising it high up in of his hand. Is Dragon Rider sect really going to be finished? Sorrow swept through her heart. The heavenly devil horde in the sky fell like rain and attacked the soldiers that were escaping in all directions. Qin Mu was also blasted out of the sky and fell to the ground with a few thumps. 6 to 7 heavenly devils crashed down around him and gradually stood up. Qin Mu was no stranger to the heavenly devil horde. He had traveled through great ruins with Village Chief at night and met the heavenly devil horde when he was searching for Carefree Village, and he had also killed quite a number of them. The body of these heavenly devil horde was strong and grew in all shapes and sizes, which was different from humans. Furthermore, they cultivate devil chi and was proficient in close combat and spells. Their divine arts are queer but not as intricate as humans. When these heavenly devils just landed, Qin Mu flashed to the side of a heavenly devil and raised his knife and beheaded this heavenly devil. He then dodged the scorpion tail of another heavenly devil, the jet black tail nearly hooking onto his neck. Qin Mu stabbed his fingers forward and Junior Protector Sword pierced through the scorpion tail which the Heavenly Devil had yet retracted. With his other hand executing Heavenly Devil Freedom Mudra, he pulled the soul of a Heavenly Devil which was closing in on him out of his body, shattering the soul into pieces. Una La. A cow-head Heavenly Devil pointed at him and shouted, Una La, Maya Bulu Gnao Didi Nuo Jiohong Warrior, I want to challenge you. Come, bring it on. Qin Mu shouted and his vital chi burst forth as he executed Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique. That cow-head Heavenly Devil bellowed and rushed over with quick steps while dragging a huge and long knife that was 10 yards long. The blade of the knife was in contact with the ground, thus sparks flew as he dragged it over and slashed it down at Qin Mu with a sudden shout. Right at this moment, a huge snake crashed down from the sky and crushed the cow-head Heavenly Devil into broken pieces. Long Jianan controlled the huge snake to land on the ground, and with the snake's tail sweeping horizontally like a huge iron pillar, she managed to overwhelm and crush dozens of Heavenly Devils that came for her. Qin Mu instantly fleeted away, and as Long Jianan was about slaughter towards him, countless Heavenly Devils descended from the sky. Even though her cultivation had surpassed Qin Mu by 2 to 3 realms, she was still caught up in a bitter struggle. Qin Mu was also caught in an ambush. Hu Ling'e immediately summoned a tornado that revolved around them, but there were still Heavenly Devils who could rush into the tornado and pounced at them. More and more Heavenly Devils poured in from another world, and looking from afar, they were like countless flies flying down from the sky, hiding the sky and covering the earth. Patriarch said, I must be able to settle disaster created by myself. It seems that I can't settle it this time. Cold sweats broke out on Qin Mu's forehead. Suddenly, bright light suddenly came from the south, and the lights were moving in the sky, lighting up the entire land. The lights grew brighter and brighter as they moved from the south. Wherever the light passed by, countless of Heavenly Devils would fall from the sky without their heads. Qin Mu raised his head to take a look and was shook. Those lights were sword groups. Sword groups formed by countless swords. It was impossible to count exactly how many swords there were. Meanwhile, in the middle of the sword groups, there were thousands of sword pellets that were still whirling continuously. The sword pellets were like moons, and as they spun, flying swords flew out continuously and killed all the Heavenly Devils in the sky with all kinds of sword forms. The sword groups were simply too vast. The light given off by each sword was all very dazzling, and there was probably a few million swords here. With all the light gathered together, it was truly a magnificent sight. Even though the Heavenly Devils from Duqian hid the sky and covered the earth in a piece of black, the sky soon cleared up once again after the dazzling sword groups swept them, leaving just countless corpses falling from the sky. In Heaven Wave City, Duqian Devil King's expression changed hugely and gave a bellow. He sped up the process to summon his true body over, and the 100 of Heavenly Devils' voices around the altar became incomparably loud and clear, using the devil language and countless corpses to summon the true body of Duqian Devil King. The air trembled violently as a huge foot stretched out from another world. There were devil flames burning around this feet which burned the sky scarlet red. The sword groups in the sky suddenly changed their directions and whistled towards Heaven Wave City. The scale of the sword groups was almost as huge as Heaven Wave City. In the city, Duqian Devil King roared in anger as he raised his 8 arms. With a hum, a huge black barrier appeared in the sky above Heaven Wave City, covering the entire sky. In an instant, countless ear-piercing noises sounded out, causing countless people to bleed from their ears. That was the sound when the flying swords collided with the black barrier of Duqian Devil King. The clanging noises practically burst forth all at the same time, therefore no one's ears could withstand the sound. Qin Mu was also deafened and couldn't hear any sounds. Countless Heavenly Devils around him were also covering their ears and squatting on the floor in an unbearable pain. In Martial Order County on the opposite shore, countless Eternal Peace's soldiers were guarding against the invasion of the Heavenly Devil Horde, and everything was in complete confusion. The noises given off from the collision between the sword lights and the dark barrier had also caused an extreme pain to the countless soldiers here. However, since the distance was much further, it was still bearable for them. Plopping sounds came from the river surface. It was from those Heavenly Devils flying to the opposite shore who were getting blown out from the sky, falling into the river. In the city tower of Martial Order County, a white-haired old general gave off an expression of astonishment. Imperial Preceptor, a great expert, has gone to the opposite shore. Duke Wei, this man is not only a great expert. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor stood in the front and gazed at the situation across the river. His ability is not far from mine. He's even stronger than the 3 old monsters that ambushed me back then. Duke Wei gave off a puzzled expression. He sized up the sword groups that were contending against Duqian Devil King and looked at the true body of Duqian Devil King in the sky, which already had half of his leg in this world, while asking puzzledly, who had summoned this Devil King? Isn't this a little too much? Have these fellows of the southern borders really stooped so low just to obtain victory? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor shook his head. With me around, Duqian Devil King will not be able to descend into this world. On the contrary, the one who summoned this devil god had done a great merit for our eternal peace. Isn't Heavenwave City just destroyed like that? Our soldiers will not have to bleed. If it was me, I will also choose to do this for the lives of our soldiers. Duke Wei sighed. Imperial Preceptor, this is why they don't understand you and said you're following the devil path. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor walked out of the city tower and headed towards Heavenwave City on the opposite shore with a smile. The reason they said that was because I had affected their interests. My merits and demerits are not what the current people can evaluate. Only the people of hundreds and thousands of years later can judge my merits and demerits. Furthermore, in my eyes, they're already dead. In Heavenwave City, Duqian Devil King gave a dull grunt. The flesh on his 8 palms became messed up. The attack of the countless swords was simply terrifying. He was unable to endure the strength coming from them. If his true body came forward, he could naturally endure it, but this body was merely transformed from wood. Qin Mu had summoned him with his devil voice, but Qin Mu's strength was too weak. The energy he could transfer over through Qin Mu was too little and wasn't enough to contend with this strong practitioner that was controlling countless of flying swords. At this moment, he saw a middle-aged man walking over from the other side of the river. Duqian Devil King felt a fear in his heart and was about to exert out a little strength when he suddenly saw a sword light flying straight to his face. How breathtaking was this sword attack! This sword attack contained an extremely profound principle in the sword path, unleashing the murderous desire of the transforming sword path to its fullest extent. It was like revealing an extremely fine painting in front of his eyes. To be able to see this painting, he could die without regrets. So he died. His head was severed by this sword light, and the head that grew 4 faces and 12 eyes rolled from his neck. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor retracted his sword and walked up to Heavenwave City. The heavenly devil horde in the city was still taking charge of the sacrificial altar. When they saw this middle-aged man, God knows how many heavenly devils immediately swarmed forward, pouncing at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. What followed next was the collapse of Duqian Devil King's huge corpse. That black barrier also shattered and disintegrated in the air. The countless flying swords attacking the black barrier suddenly moved back and returned into the sword pellets. In the sky floated thousands of sword pellets, each of which was the size of a thumb, rotating around and around. At this moment, a chest flew over from far away and the lid of the wooden chest opened up. The countless sword pellets flew back into the wooden chest with tinkling and thumping sounds. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked at that wooden chest and seemed to be deep in his thoughts as he stood there motionlessly. Without anyone to take care of the sacrificial altar, that hair-raising summoning came to a stop, and the growing vortex in the sky immediately stopped growing before gradually shrinking. The true body of Duqian Devil King already had a leg in and was forced to pull back his leg. An extremely unwilling and angry roar faintly came from the depths of the sky. Outside Heavenwave City, Qin Mu was also raising his head to look at the wooden chest in mid-air and revealed a suspicious look. This chest looks very familiar. It seems to be the one in the smithy in the village. That wooden chest was also filled with silver-colored pellets. Granny Sai even told me those weren't sword pellets and were ordinary silver pellets. She even said Grandpa Mute wouldn't be so rich. He saw every single one of the sword pellets enter the wooden chest. The wooden chest gradually fell down and he immediately sprinted to the place where the wooden chest was landing at. That wooden chest descended down and vanished in a piece of forest. Qin Mu rushed over and saw an elder in cotton clothing who was carrying a furnace for forging on his back. On his hand was a wooden chest and hardships could be seen all across his face. Those were the wrinkles left behind by time. When the elder in cotton clothing saw him run over, he gave a wide grin and there was no tongue in his mouth.